Yeah. All right. Let's play whilst we're talking. We've already spoiled the end of this, so like whatever. But yeah, I think it's really true. Like,
I think
it's
really true. Bet 9 million?
No, I think it's 4 point something. But
yeah, you're not gonna get greedy like that.
I'm not.
You're gonna bet the maximum amount that he would call because you're inside his head. You're in his psychic space. You just know that you're like, and I'm gonna actually make it a 44 on the end because 45 is gonna be like, no, that's too much. 79 instead of 80.
There's actually good psychology you can do there when like Ben and I super into that when you're just like betting 478k as a value bet instead of 472k in a bunch of spots, and that will shift depending on the spot and depending on the person, and just trying to get like a feel for that. And Ben and I would have so many times where we used to be playing to like we hit like when he'd play a hand and then we'd go through it together, and he'd be like, "So what'd you do on the river?" And I'd be like, probably bet 463. And he was like, what? Did you read about it on Poker News or something? I'd be like, did you bet 463? I love this. And I really do think people underestimate how important that is. Just like, especially when playing against the bad to not great players, like the bad to medium players. I think there's just like a lot of psychology that goes into that, even up to the stakes of like if you're playing live, like 10-25, I'd say. So he opens ace king here. I don't know enough about short stacked heads up to know if he should be limping. He should probably be limping, but whatevs. Here on the turn, I want to bet the maximum that ace high is never folding to, and I think I agree with past me. I think if he has ace 7 here, he's going to be calling just because he has a gut shot. He has 2 overs to most of the board, 1 over to all of the board. So yeah, going for value. And I think if you pause it here for a second.
Yep. So 725k would have been the amount that he folds.
It's kind of this is kind of an annoying spot where like it's so hard to get value because if I shove, I think he's just going to fold his ace highs, and if I min bet or bet small, it looks like I'm never bluffing because say if I bet 600k here. All right, okay. To frame this thought, he almost always has ace high. Like his vast majority of his range is ace high. So like from both players' perspective, he's going to be thinking I look like ace high, and I'm going to be thinking he looks like ace high. So it's kind of just like a leveling war of like, okay, I need to bet a size ace high is going to call. If I were playing against a micro stakes player, I would bet like 600k because micro stakes player calls small bets with small hands generally. And then if I were playing like a medium stakes player, I'd be happy to shove, and you know they'll be like, oh, he's trying to bluff me with ace high, and that wouldn't be their only thought process. I don't want to like undermine people's thought processes, but like that is the kind of trends, kind of like feel of thoughts that would be going through a lot of like medium players' heads. And against good players like Gibbler, it's kind of whatevs. Like if I bet small, he's going to fold. If I bet big, he's probably also going to fold because he knows I can just jam like a 3 here. Probably if I have ace 3, I'm probably going for it. But I think just mathematically, like he's unlikely to call 600k and he's unlikely to call a shove. But when you shove, that equals like 5.5 300ks. So you need him to call 5.5 less times than if you bet 300k or sorry 600k. So I think shoving it is the best play for all of those reasons. But I also think it's an annoying spot where he's just going to.
See what happens. I mean, he's got ace king.
He does have ace. It's hard to fold ace king.
Ace king, man. The Anna Kournikova looks good and never wins.
I would genuinely. I think a lot of the high stakes kind of GTO bot players, if they heard me say like half of these thoughts, they'd be like, that was what was going through his head that whole time.
Well, like they speak a different language than you. It's a different school of thought.
Yeah, it's a different thought process. And when they have their axioms, like you need to be balanced, like their premises, where they're saying you need to be balanced, you need to have this in your range, this in your range, then as soon as they see people not acting and thinking like that, they're just going to be like, oh, because I've thought like that the whole time, I now think that's bad.
Right.
If they don't think like me. And you see that a lot in like politics as well. There's not much to
Yeah,
talk about.
'cause-
Yeah,
There's not much
because
about
if they acknowledge your thought process, then it's like, well, what else do I have to question? If that assumption was wrong, what else might be wrong? And I don't want to question my whole way of looking at the world. So you know what? Just like, you're an idiot.
yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's so true. Especially in American politics, you see that so much. You see someone like on the moderate left and the moderate right, both like super intelligent people, both thinking each other are idiots. And it's like you're basically just the same person with different axioms, different ways of thinking. Not different ways of thinking, just different assumptions about the world. And we can win.
Ooh, not the best flop.
I win that one. No,
Okay.
that is not the
It's
win.
a good try.
Who wants to win with A7 off though for the title?
Actually,
Yeah. Me.
Everybody's like, me!
Here with 6-5, I think I'm probably meant to limp against most people, but I also think Gibbler isn't just going to like punish me by shoving just like queen deuce suited over a raise. So I opt for the non-standard raising instead of limping strategy against a lot of people. I also don't know much about short stack heads up, so maybe it's standard to raise. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure you're meant to be limping a bunch.
we can ask Ankush Mandavia. I'm pretty sure he knows all about short stack heads up play. Or anybody in the hyper turbo community. Have you seen their charts that they have, those guys?
Crazy, man. I run across them sometimes when I'm just like shark scoping people, and I'm just like, oh my god, we've met a super reg, and it'll just like turn out 6 months later, it's like, no, they're just a hyper turbo.
No, but not the shark scope graphs. The charts for like heads up where they're like on two big blinds, limp this, limp raise this.
No, I haven't seen those.
Every stack size, it's like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, if I could just memorize these, it's like, how the fuck am I going to memorize these? Like, it's so detailed and like, man, props to them. That is impressive.
So just to draw some attention to this, because I just remember what happens.
Okay. You call it, man.
I had so much fun with that one. So pause it. I'll talk you through it.
Okay, I'll take it back to where you actually are calling his hand, because that will be, when people are watching it, to be able to see you saying his hand. That's like, the best shot. We got to get all the details so people appreciate that we pay attention to the little things.
You can see actually I typed it so quickly there that I already had it typed out before he bet.
On what street did you decide he had queens and start typing out that many?
Well, so it was actually pre-flop. Is where I kind of just like narrowed his range really, really hard. So he started on 4 point something million. So just not many big blinds, whatever it is, like 13 bigs, 14 bigs. He very quickly min raises, probably like 3 seconds, which at, if you're playing normal, that's fine. But when it's heads up for the scoop title, it's a very, very quick decision. So talk you through my thought process there is that when someone's not aware of timing tells like Gibbles, you can look a lot into what these timing tells are, especially when they go very quickly about something, because it means that they haven't put a lot of thought into that decision. He's not a heads up player. I thought he was a recreational player. Sorry, Gibbles. But he's definitely not a heads up specialist because of a bunch of the hands we've seen. And he will have to think about a lot of his decisions. He's going to have to think, okay, what am I going to do with Queen 4 suited here? Do I raise? Do I limp? Do I fold? Who knows? So we have to think, okay, what kind of hands won't have much of a decision from his perspective from like a not a veteran, let's say. And so we go through those hands. We can have rag hands. They're going to have a decision. They're not going to snap open. Like they're going to think about folding. They're going to think about calling. Probably not. They'll think about raising. They're definitely not just be like, yep, 7-3 off. Let's do it. Then you can think about the medium hands like Jack 10 offs. Queen 7 suiteds of the world. And they're going to have to think about calling because it's a stack where you're just like, oh, I don't know if I want to take a flop. Sucks if I get shoved on. And then you have your kind of like higher strength hands like king queens, and they're going to have to think about shoving. So, and then they're not just going to be able to snap open because, you know, it's a profitable shove to shove king queen, but do you want to induce? Do you want to shove? Who knows? He's not going to know that within like 2 seconds. And then you have your high tier hands, which is aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, maybe nines. And they 100% know that they're going to min raise. Like there is no doubt in their head that, yep, I want to min raise to induce. So out of all of those hands, this is a very unique situation where, you know, it's like you can suddenly narrow down his range to just like 80%. The 20% is just like, you know, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe 80 is a bit too big, but just like 60%, 50% even, which is huge, of just nutted top tier hands, which happens a lot when you get to timing tells. And there's actually, not to shout out to myself, there's actually a hand I went through against David Peters. If you put like Charlie Carrel 100k analysis, maybe 100k high roller into YouTube, there's I go through another spot like this in a 100k tournament against David Peters where he does a weird check and I suddenly put his range down to like 3 hands, and then as soon as you get that, you just get to play perfectly against him because not only is his range narrow, but he doesn't know that his range is narrow. He doesn't know that you know it. So you just have an insane whatever it's called, advantage.
Information advantage, right?
Exactly. And so pre-flop, you'll actually, if people want to rewind it, you'll see me tanking for a bit, and I was hovering over the fold button. It was maybe like 10 seconds or something, but I was just like, can I do this without being too dumb? And I think I wasn't that sure in my read. I was like sure in it, but I just like, you know, even if I'm 50% sure, it's probably still a profitable call to have Jack 8 if I have the post-flop advantage as well.
So you were thinking about just folding this right now?
I was tanking here, and it's interesting. Like, if in a different situation, if a bad player had like spent 15 seconds and then raised here, it's actually a really good shove probably, because they'd probably have like 90-something% hands that they're going to fold to a shove because they would end up shoving the hands like 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s themselves. So timing can really make a huge difference here. And not just in this situation, but I'm not going to try and list situations where it does make a difference. But people out there, if you're playing online poker, timing tells are a thing. I would say like a good 60 to 70% of the notes that I was making on players when I was playing back online were just timing tells. So super relevant. So yeah, play.
And that
Timing tells are also great because it requires if you're catching timing tells on people, it means you're paying more attention. And the more you're paying attention, the more you're just in flow with everything and the little details. And I think this is cool because it ties back to what we were talking about earlier with like the wide defending and like, yeah, you're getting more than 3-1. So even if you know he has queens, you like almost have enough equity technically to call with Jack 8 if you could realize it. But it's a spot where you're much more likely to get felted. Or like you're much more likely to double them up because if you flop top pair, you got to go with it, and then you're just going to pay him off. So it's a spot where even if the math says, yes, my hand wins enough of the time against his hand to justify these odds to defend pre-flop, given the equity I'm going to have when I put in the next 3x of the pot, I don't want to get into that situation.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really true. So after I tanked for a bit, and I decided I don't want to look like an idiot and fold to like a Queen 5 suited.
Because you know it's going to be on the replay, and people are going to say cards up.
Yeah. Gotta think about that future EV, man. Don't want people to think you're an idiot. So if you look at the timing here, again, he does not spend. Oh, he does actually. I think it's the turn that he spends a bit less time. So when he checks back, maybe I was. Oh no, that was pretty quick. It was like 3 or 4 seconds. So can we pause it?
Yeah.
So given that analysis that I had pre-flop, and I had that in my head throughout the whole thing, I also thought that the way that he played post kind of just like it just all adds up. He checked back the flop kind of quickly, and then the turn like more quickly. I would say the flop's not super relevant timing wise. Just the fact that he checked is the relevant thing. There just aren't really any hands that you would want to, like, if you have queen 5 suited, you're just going to c-bet because it's such a dry board. The hands that can check so comfortably on the flop are just like jacks and queens and kings. And then when he snap checks back the turn, or like not snap check, but he quickly checks back the turn, there's really just one hand that can that comfortably check back, apart from maybe kings. There's pretty much only queens, because a jack, you're at least, scared of a queen coming. Because I have a bunch of queen X in my range if he has jacks, because that's some of the hands that I have showdown value with. With queens, you're not, from his perspective, you're not scared of a king, you're not scared of an ace, because I don't have any ace X, so I didn't shove pre. I wouldn't have shoved pre if I had an ace, but he doesn't know that. So there's literally just no bad turn cards or bad river cards for queens, so it's just like from someone that's not thinking on like the highest level, he's not thinking what I'm thinking, he's just kind of thinking, then it's just like a very nice spot to just like double check, get some what he sees as deception going. I don't want to say this is his entire thought process for sure. I'm just kind of simplifying it for the point of like how I made my decision. Like, I'm sure he had other thoughts going on. I don't want to shit on him or anything. But just like this would be like part of his thought process at least. And yeah, it's just like no one really double checks back here with a bluff. Like if someone has just like, what's a good bluff here? Like Jack 4, not even Jack 7. Something that doesn't have too much equity to keep barreling on. No one really double checks back. Like, they'll probably just bet the turn in case they get bluffed off on the river. So you could just put him down as 100% value here, like for sure. So then you just have to think which value hands he has. He's probably betting a king at some point. But also he doesn't snap open a king pre-flop. So yeah, the only hand that made sense, the only hand that was in my head from the flop. On the flop, I was like, queens or jacks, but I have a jack, so it's probably queens. And then on the turn, I was like, it's definitely queens. Could also be wrong. This could just be like huge confirmation bias. But that was my thought process, and I was pretty confident on that one.
Yeah, and I think this is cool because it also ties back to earlier where you were talking about hands to check back versus hands to bet to protect, and that it's not just the top card on the flop that matters, but it also matters the second card on the flop, because that's how many overcards there are to second pair. And like every card matters on the flop. The whole texture matters, and king 6 deuce is not the same as king 5 deuce, is not the same as jack 5 deuce, is not the same as jack 8 deuce. And like, yes, it's minor, so it's not like, oh, I need to drill down every single flop, but the concepts around it, the general way of looking at it and thinking about it is very important to have, because it will allow you, when you get into the situation, to be like, okay, I understand kind of what flops here and what little nuances there are here that I want to be aware of, so I'll make slight adjustments to my play too. And again, just being involved as fully as possible with every little detail pays huge dividends, as we see in the long run.
At Greed